Zach.
It's Zach's turn to say hello.
It is time to open the show.
Are we speaking?
What the hell?
It's Monday morning.
Did I have the
I didn't hear any
music?
music.
No nothing? Cold
This is our
open?
best intro
Well,
ever,
ain't no
by
thing.
far.
Welcome
This is
to
the cold
Monday,
open.
everybody. This is how we're doing it today. Shit is wild. All right, welcome to The Hash. I'm Zach Seward. I'm joined by Will Foxley, Danny Nelson, and Naomi Brockwell. Who's got the first story? Naomi? You waving?
I do. I'm going to start us off. This is quite a Monday. We've got the Monday blues. You just gotta hang with us because you know how Mondays go. It's kind of like rainy and stuff, and we got a bunch of things to report about crypto. Not all of them are good. Some of it's exciting, but some of it's pretty crappy. So we're going to tell you all of the juicy details, starting with Nigeria. Now, Nigeria apparently now has a CBDC that has gone live. It's called the eNaira, and it is designed to complement Nigeria's physical currency, not replace it. We'll see how long that lasts. It was announced last week, but it actually went live today after an announcement from the president. And it's interesting that it comes at the end of Nigeria actually banning crypto transactions within the banking sector in February. Then 4 months later, they announced the eNaira. It seems that that is the order that these governments go in. We're going to ban it. We're going to release our CBDC. Then we're going to control the money supply. So an interesting development there. I'm going to throw to Will for your thoughts on all of this.
I got lots of thoughts for you this morning, so let's dig into it. Nigeria has been all over the Bitcoin scene, and Bitcoin specifically. Jack Dorsey, Twitter CEO, has made a lot of comments over the years about his interest in developing Bitcoin in that ecosystem. We've also seen, what's his name? The NFL player, Zach is going to know this off the top of his head, he's from Nigeria. And he came to the United States, played Russell Okung. Wow, sorry. Monday morning blues slipped a little bit. Russell Okung is from Nigeria, and his personal story of getting involved with Bitcoin is all based on inflation, the loss of purchasing power of his money. Came over to the United States, became a pro football player, and now is a huge Bitcoiner because of his origin story in Nigeria, dealing with the loss of purchasing power from his money. And so that's why we have like a huge growing ecosystem in Nigeria for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And the government there is scared of crypto as well. We saw, I think 6 months to 12 months ago, in Parliament's floor in Nigeria, one of the lawmakers was talking about how Bitcoin was eating up Nigeria's own money. It was destroying it because Bitcoin was a stronger currency. And they're looking at ways to stop that from happening. I think this is the output of it. We're seeing that they're looking at some sort of tech solution to fight a tech solution. And Bitcoin, of course, is going to keep eating it up. But we're seeing this live action kind of play out in front of us where countries are trying to fight back with CBDCs. And Nigeria seems to be one of the first battlegrounds. A lot of other countries are still testing out CBDCs. They don't know if they're going to push them out. Saw China did it earlier this year, and they banned almost everything to do with crypto to lay the pavement out for their CBDC. Seems Nigeria did the same thing. Might be happening in other countries as they develop their CBDCs too. Zach, I'll throw this one over to you, though.
Yeah, interesting to see this in Nigeria of all places, right, where there's a dedicated crypto and Bitcoin audience. I think you're right. Well, I think that the idea here is that central banks want to be able to co-opt some of this momentum that is emerging around digital assets, and for this to roll out in Nigeria makes a ton of sense. There's a ton of other central banks working on this right now in various forms of the CBDC experiment. That Nigeria got this one out the door fairly quickly is interesting to see and does speak to this. This digital payments momentum in a place like Nigeria for sure. I'll toss this to Naomi though. I'm just kind of curious, Naomi, we're starting to see these early experiments get trotted out. Like what are the big things that you're watching for when it comes to CBDCs right now?
Goodness. Well, I'm watching for what kind of programmability is going into these things, because when you have a centralized monopoly over a central bank digital currency, and then they ban competition like they have in Nigeria, and they've banned crypto payments that are not this CBDC. The government can do all kinds of things to control the choices of its citizens. So they can choose to, make funds get deleted if someone just has them sitting in their bank account for too long. They can, obviously they can inflate the money supply at will, but they've been doing that for forever. But there's this whole other tier tier of programmability that gets added once you have this in digital form. And it's pretty scary. It just gives a lot more control to the government to freeze funds, to decide who can spend what funds. I know that even the Central Bank of England was talking last month about what sort of programmability they might start to explore when they're saying, okay, well, for all payments from the government, we can make sure that people are spending their money only on approved purchases, only on things that we think are sensible. And that sort of thing just gives me chills when you have a government and their departments deciding what is a sensible transaction, what is and isn't allowed. So this really just adds a whole nother layer of control. And so it makes a lot of sense that Nigeria is exploring this, and it started out with a crypto ban. But Danny, I'm going to throw to you for your take.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest question that I have about this is, so it launched today. Well, it was actually supposed to launch at the start of the month. And right before launch day, they said, oh, wait, we're going to hold it up. It's Independence Day in Nigeria, and we don't want to interfere with the festivities. Well, they're central bankers. They know when Independence Day is. So I kind of find it hard to believe that at the last minute they canceled the initial rollout, said they were going to release it 3 days later, and then waited 3 weeks. If it was really just for Independence Day. They're always late, but they were. I think they were probably covering for something. So I want to know how well the tech. Late. I mean, of my conspiracy theories, my pet conspiracy theories, this one's probably one of the more substantiated.
Actually, the Ethereum team.
So I'm just waiting. I mean, I guess I'm not waiting to see anything. I'm not going to be using this thing, but I'm interested to see if the tech actually works as intended. And, in the world of tech working as intended, that's a terrible crossover, but MasterCard is rolling out, or rather has announced today that is partnering with Bakkt to increase its cryptocurrency options for merchants and for consumers. Now, exactly what this partnership will look like going forward is not entirely clear, but that's kind of the point. The big idea is that MasterCard will be using Bakkt's custodial wallets to help businesses and consumers get more into cryptocurrency. And that's a really big development just because of the prevalence of MasterCard in global payments. This is one of the biggest payment companies out there. It is one that years ago you would have thought would be getting into crypto, but now they're continuing down this path of trying to push cryptocurrency to a wider audience. Now, this might not be everyone's using Bitcoin. I think that MasterCard's actually said in the past that they're focused on cryptocurrencies that don't have a lot of volatility, which probably means stable coins. But this could be a really big step forward in bringing stable coins and other cryptos to a wider market. So, Zach, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think this is like crypto 2.0, right? So initially crypto 1.0 payments were supposed to happen in native assets of these various blockchains, but crypto 2.0 payments are very much oriented around stablecoins. So people on Twitter hyping this as, hey, Bitcoin everywhere through MasterCard. I don't really see that as being the case in this instance. Certainly notable that MasterCard is continuing its like dalliance in the crypto space. They acquired CipherTrace to help with compliance and other aspects of making sure they can do payments in a regulated fashion. So to see them rolling this out at this scale through a trusted intermediary and Bakkt in this instance, super duper interesting. I think still payments around crypto is not where the market is right now, right? I think we've seen store of value become the prevailing narrative as opposed to method of exchange. And if there are catalytic moments around making payments more convenient for folks, this could be one of them. But I'd be curious to see if they see much uptick in terms of transacting in crypto on these rails, on these credit card rails. It's going to be interesting to see if consumer demand follows this rollout. But I will toss it to you, Naomi, because I saw your hand up.
Yeah, there are a couple of things to address when you look at these third parties integrating Bitcoin payments within like traditional financial payment rails. So one of the first things I would look at is it custodial? In this case, it is, right? There are options out there like BitPay, for example. They have a non-custodial wallet, and every time you want to spend on your card, it's literally an instantaneous purchase. So you're only ever putting money into the system for like a brief moment where it's not in your control. It's not like you're keeping your money in a bank account where it can be seized at any time and controlled by someone else. You always have control of it, and you're only incrementally putting money into the system. The other side of things is like, what kind of incentive is there for people to spend their crypto, right? In this case, I haven't heard them talk about any sort of like rewards or discounts in using this. When I use crypto every day, there are a couple of reasons. One of them is that I want to be supporting the people who are accepting this. I want to be building out the infrastructure. I think that ultimately we are going to be at a point where, US dollars aren't going to be usable anymore. And so what are we going to use? We're going to be using our crypto. So we want to see people like merchants be setting up the infrastructure for all of this. We want to see those ecosystems get built out. So I want to support the people who are kind of on the forefront of that. But the other reason is that I get killer savings by spending my crypto. Like every Amazon purchase, I get like up to 33% off. I use Dash Direct as well. I get like, double-digit percentages off. Bitrefill, again, like you can get rewards back if you use Lightning. There are all kinds of rewards programs out there. So when I see an offering like this, where it's a custodial card and I don't see any incentive, for me, it just seems like an extension of my bank account, which I'm really trying to shy away from using. Like, I do love the idea that we're getting more pervasive Bitcoin usage, and like it's cool because once you get that kind of circular supply chain and you get people earning it and spending it, like I love seeing all that, but it's probably not a product that I'm going to be using. But Danny, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, well, not to dunk on you, but I am 6'2", and the story does talk quite a lot about the loyalty programs that will be involved in this rollout. Now, of course, it doesn't give specifics. Away. But I actually can't jump so well, so I won't be dunking too much.
Shocking.
But
what are some of those? Because in the article I'm looking at, it doesn't go into details.
It doesn't go into specifics, but I think that the point is that this is the infrastructure, and this is going to be the thing that people build, that companies build on top of to provide the different things. This is not them saying, we have this new credit card that gives, 14% back or something ridiculous like that. This is them saying, we're doing this step in partnering with a custodial firm to offer a service that people can use in a way in the future. So
what are the incentives, I don't think there are Danny? Specifics. I can't see any in this article. Give me some examples.
The incentives, I mean, there isn't there. The thing is, there's no incentive to use any product quite yet. Like this doesn't. We're not talking yet about a product.
That's the
we're talking
about
though, isn't it? The back end.
I feel like we're missing the whole story.
We got a Depembe finger wags SWAT on that one. Let's go to Will, who I think is 6'4". Will, what's your take?
No, Aloli 6'2" also. Now, I think we're missing the big story here is that Bakkt has never really had a product, but they somehow finagled their way to go to public. And, I think that's the big takeaway here is if you go public, have a product, it's okay. You can waddle along until someone like MasterCard picks you up and you're good. You can go home. I remember 2018, 2019, everyone was like talking about Bakkt. They're going to bring on another Bitcoin bull run. And never happened. Like they've launched and it just sunk, and they had like this rewards program. No one used it. No one cared about it. Volumes were tremendously low.
You can't blame them. They lost their CEO to a really, really successful
I'm just saying, like
Senate.
The big takeaway here is like they made it somehow with this MasterCard thing. Even if that goes nowhere, at least they have a client. So that's all I have to say. I'll leave it there.
I want to get back to Danny because I like that you are showing that they could be some optimism in this. We don't know where this is going. You're right. And we don't really have details about what the incentives are. I think once we have that incentive, perhaps it seems more interesting. I really don't like the custodial nature of it, but that's just my takeaway. But I'll hand it back to you for final thoughts before we go to tease.
Well, the day that MasterCard launches a decentralized anything, I will be highly suspect of it. So at least they're being honest about it.
True.
Right,
well, no, I mean, BitPay is partnered with Visa, I believe. No, they're partnered with MasterCard, and it's a non-custodial service. So, you don't have to have a Bakkt custodial service in order to partner with MasterCard. You can have a BitPay non-custodial service and partner with MasterCard, and it seems like you get more control over your money. But each to their own. Zach, I'm going to throw it to you.
All right, I'll take it. All right, we're going to take a break. Last month, there was a lingering mystery in the crypto circuit. Who got served at Messari's Mainnet Conference in New York? We found out late Friday who that was. Stick with us. We'll tell you then. on the other side of the break, that is. All right.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Hey, and welcome back to The Hash. I'm Zach Seward. Let's talk about Terra. Terraform Labs CEO Do Kwon was served by the SEC at Messari's Mainnet Conference last month. This is according to a new lawsuit filed by Kwon and Terraform Labs, alleging that the SEC acted in bad faith on this one. And they're suing the SEC over this, and that's what's going on. This follows some reporting last month in which Kwon told the Defiant that he had not been served, and indeed, he had been served. We were trying to figure out who this was at the time. We were unable to figure it out in any meaningfully confirmed way, so we did not report on who had or had not been served, but now we know who got served, and this speaks to ramped up enforcement efforts by U.S. regulators around cryptocurrency projects. All right, this one's super interesting to me. A lot of good stuff here. I'm going to throw it straight to Danny. Because Danny, I want your thoughts on this whole thing. What's up? What's your take on this Do Kwon thing?
So, the biggest thing that comes out of this for me is the fact that Do Kwon went to the Defiant after he was served and said, "I was not served." There was a bit of an open secret that it was him. At the conference, everyone was trying to figure it out. A lot of people said, "Oh, it was Do." We're not comfortable running that. We did not touch it. And then he came out and he denied it publicly, only to then use it, go back later and sue the SEC over it. So I'm really wondering what the strategy was right there to knee-jerk say, no, nothing happened. If only then the future strategy was to go forward and sue the SEC for acting in bad faith for, as it happens, serving a lawsuit at the top of an escalator right before he was going on to a panel to talk. Now, of course, that the timing of that is more unfortunate than suspect, but there are quite a lot of legal issues that they bring up in the suit that I'm not fully prepared to parse through, for I am not a lawyer. But they are saying that the SEC acted in bad faith in delivering and serving someone who they said was willing to work with the SEC in an open fashion, and therefore should not be subject to getting ambushed, so to speak, in such a way.
I mean, it's almost like you're suggesting, Danny, that the SEC sometimes acts in bad faith, which is shocking to me, seeing how they have responded so eagerly to embrace the comments and feedback of the crypto community previously. I mean, when Library went to DC and met with all of these officials and government agencies. Oh, wait, no. SEC was the one agency that refused to meet with them and then went on to tell Library, oh, we're open anytime to engage with you. And yet they're clearly not. There's no engagement. It does not surprise me that the SEC is acting in bad faith, and that they are going after people even if they're willing to work with them. In fact, they're even going after people, and those people are trying to find a way to settle, and they're denying that. There are many, many cases out there, including Library, which have been trying to settle for years, and the SEC has refused and basically said, we're going to continue going after you until you're bankrupt. And so it's really sad to see this. I'm pretty interested in what Terraform Labs is doing. I really like the Mirror protocol. It's a way to mint crypto assets in a way that mimics US stocks, which is kind of interesting. And obviously the government hates this. As soon as Binance started talking about we're going to have tokenized stock offerings, every country in the world was like, okay, Binance, you were cut and you can no longer operate here. So the governments really want to keep control over that side of things. So it's not surprising at all that as soon as Terraform Labs comes in and does something, they're going to get hit with a subpoena, even if they're willing to settle, cooperate, whatever. It doesn't seem like the SEC really cares. It's really devastating to see them push all this technology overseas, because that really does seem like the only outcome from this. They're not protecting consumers. They're just, keeping control over an archaic and outdated, financial infrastructure. But I'll throw this to you, Zach.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is that Terra thinks that it has enough to take this fight public in a way that could serve its interests, right? So Terra is a quietly large ecosystem. You mentioned the Mirror protocol, where you can mint synthetic stocks. There's also UST, which is an algorithmic stablecoin that is getting up there in the stablecoin rankings. So for Terraform and Terra ecosystem itself to sort of rise to sort of be on the radar of the SEC at this point in time is certainly interesting, and it's curious to see if there are other projects that have also been served with similar notices and maybe aren't being so public about what has happened. So the fact that they are going public and they think that, hey, Do Kwon, resident of South Korea, this is not your remit, SEC. We're going to fight you on this one. It's going to be interesting to see what shakes out here and whether or not the long arm of the U.S. law enforcement can indeed reach overseas in the way that it has with past cases in the crypto world. Naomi, I saw you.
It is worthwhile pointing out that the SEC, we talk about it like this cohesive agency. There are people in the SEC who are actually great. It just seems that the decisions the SEC is making are not great. So whoever gets that ultimate decision-making capability, which is probably Gary Gensler, just is kind of missing the mark here. But people like Hester Peirce, a couple of weeks ago, she put out a great article that was talking about how crypto is sometimes compared to the Wild West, and how the Wild West was actually great, and how there's so much innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. Like, she's talking about embracing that stuff, while the SEC's actions just seem to be shutting that stuff down. And we have in the comments on YouTube, so Kieran Mosqueda says, SEC strong-arming and extorting commission. It kind of seems that way. I like that, Kieran. But Danny, did I see your hand go up again?
Yeah, well, the SEC, going back to the Wild West, the romance of the Wild West is more mythical than truth. You've got a situation in the Wild West where there were areas ruled by outlaws. People had to turn to the sheriffs to maybe institute order when they could. Cattle would disappear. People would run these I can't remember, the Wolverine banks or some sort of banks that would issue their own money that were valueless. Wildcat banks, thank you. Wildcat banks that issue their own money and they were worthless. And then they're so worthless they'd paint the walls of their houses wallpaper with these notes. So I think that Gary is a little too forward on this investor protection beat. He's definitely not protecting investors from anything other than massive gains, I would say. But I think that I'm excited to see where he goes with this. And also, I think the SEC probably did act in bad faith. It's doesn't really serve Terra's interests to out themselves in this lawsuit unless they truly think that they have a good case to stand on in fighting back. So hoping to see where this goes next.
For anyone who doesn't want to buy into the mainstream propaganda about wildcat banking, please read George Selgin for the actual history of very successful banks that ended up having to be taxed out of existence in order to get rid of them because the government couldn't compete. But I will throw it to you, Zach.
The ferocious Wolverine banks. That is some good stuff. I'm glad we coined that today. Good stuff, Danny. Last question, you, Will. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you are a big Luna bag holder, are you spooked right now? What is this, bullish or bearish for the future of the Terra ecosystem?
That's a good question. I'm pretty bullish on everything right now. So number go up. Let's just say that. That's the easy answer.
This is not investment advice.
Well reasoned, sir. All right.
Retail buy.
Take us to the next story.
Okay. We're going to move over to the DeFi ecosystem, where Near Protocol is now launching a DeFi Mindshare grant of $800 million. So this follows up on some other incentive programs from teams like Avalanche, Harmony, Phantom, a bunch of other layer ones that are basically competing with Ethereum and trying to attract developers to their blockchain, much in the same way that Ethereum attracted a lot of attention to its blockchain with DeFi Summer in 2020. So basically, there's throwing a lot of money at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think to some degree, it's been pretty successful. We saw that BSC, Binance Smart Chain, did this earlier in the year with a more limited size grant, and they attracted a lot of attention, and BSC became a sizable competitor to Ethereum. Also saw the same thing happen with Avalanche earlier this summer, where they threw a lot of money at the wall, and they also got a lot of people to jump on their bandwagon. So Near is kind of doing the same thing. Notably, Near and Ethereum are a little bit more compatible, I'd say, and they're not as competitive as some of these other chains like Ethereum and BSC or Ethereum and Solana. Typically, they kind of butt heads. Ethereum and Near, typically you see a lot of investors share bags for both tokens, or they share resources, or they share similar design protocols here. But Near wants more attention on its protocol, and it's been live for over a year now. So they're throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks. Zach, I'm going to throw this one to you first.
$800 million is muy grande, way bigger than a lot of the other incentive programs that have been rolled out in recent months. So if Near can surge back into relevance on the strength of this package, more power to them. It's interesting to see this happening. It's been a while since we've had a Near headline on the site, right? This is a project that launched, I think Will Foxley wrote this story, launched in stealth in April 2020. And it's sort of been quietly building in the background. They haven't done any of these big announcements yet. And this is they've been saving up, and this is their big announcement here, that they have a ton of incentives focused in different lanes for both developers, projects. They have a regional fund. There's all sorts of different stuff. Big slice of that is specifically earmarked for DeFi projects. So the fact that they're coming out with this big splashy number to try to get people building on and using this, one of these high speed proof of stake networks, super interesting. And I'm really curious to see if it works, because, some have had success. Others, I think we haven't seen a ton of migration toward. So if they can concoct these sweeteners in such a way that folks come to Near and build on that greenfield, I'm going to be watching that, because it's going to be interesting to see if there's enough room for folks to build on all these networks. That's what stands out to me. Just the sheer size of this one, honestly, stands out and is quite striking. But yeah, that's my take. I don't know. Danny, what do you got?
I got nothing, man. This is just as bad as when I was on CNBC. They asked me about Ethereum forking, and I did not know a damn thing. So I'm going to pass.
That was a good time.
I'll pick it up really quick.
Prediction too, or something. They're like, "Is ETH going up?" And you're like, "Sir, not my thing."
ETH whisperer.
Yeah,
I will say.
Yeah,
I'll close out the segment here because we're fading fast. I think the important question is if this money sticks. You saw BSC, Avalanche, a lot of these protocols have given money to random developers and said, come build on us. And then the money goes in there, people jump on it, they make a lot of money, and then everyone leaves. And the circus tents become empty again. Near doesn't want to have that situation. If they want to be competitor for the next 5, 10, 20 years, they need to get this money to stick around, and they need traders to stay on the Near protocol, much in the same way that Ethereum has been able to get traders and DeFi builders and application builders to stay on its chain. So that would be the takeaway for me, Danny. Did you get that?
You heard it here first. 20-year time scale only in crypto with Will Foxley.
Big brain Will Foxley. All right, let's shut it down there. We're going to say goodbye next, and that's my job. I'm Zach. That's Will down there, Danny over there, and we got Naomi here too. We'll be back again tomorrow to do it all over again on The Hash, where we get you up to speed on all the important stuff that's happening in the world of crypto. There's so much going on, so check out CoinDesk.com to read all about it. CoinDesk TV, back at you, 3 p.m. Eastern, all about Bitcoin. We'll see you tomorrow, and welcome to Monday. We hope your week is
love speed.
Going well so far.
Much better close than opening. I'll say that.
Yeah, you nailed that, Zach. I'm proud of you.
Landed that plan. All right. Adios. See you guys.
Adios.
See ya.